browser to see if I can make sure this is actually going up. And yep, it should be good to go. So guys, welcome to the live stream with Misha and Scott. This is For Your Business. We're going to jump right into topics so you guys can track right along. The topic today is going to be selling your business. Okay, so you've put your sweat into it, you've built something up, but guess what? You've got 12 months, something's on the horizon, could be anything. You got to sell your business. What do you do? Where do you start? Mish, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting topic, Scott, because it gets us thinking about, what are things maybe we've been complacent on, stuff we could be looking at that drives more value. So yeah, just things that come to mind are, operationally, how are you doing? Sales, marketing, hiring, firing, who, maybe do you need to attract your business? Who do you need to, get out of your business and yeah, just everything in between. So maybe who are better clients we could be attracting. So all that stuff I think is super interesting. I think there's some, especially in the business I run in healthcare, a lot of times we're complacent in terms of maybe getting doctor referrals or maybe doing things that low hanging fruit that are a bit easy, but maybe we're shortcutting the value of generating better quality clients or being able to sell higher value ticket items or services to those people. So yeah, I think it should spark some thought in terms of just where kind of the things we've been putting off that we could be doing better. If we're attracting a dollar amount to everything we do, how does that impact our day-to-day decisions and just everything from training to marketing to sales to operations. What things could we be uncovering? So
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I'm just thinking from my background. Like I've worked actually at a franchise group a number of years ago, and it was all about the operations. If you were going to enter into a business, they would sell you basically the operations manual, and that was all the details of what happens in the business, and that was pretty much it. And it reminds me that as exiting the business, you'd need something to hand over. You'd need something about a process or something documented. So I know in a lot of businesses, especially if they're quite lean on the startup, probably haven't documented too much. Might be a little bit informal. So I don't know if that's I don't know where that sits in terms of priorities, but certainly when you're selling a business or if you're the person buying that new business, you'd want to have a clear, really tight ship, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that also brings up another idea of like the systems and frameworks, right? That a lot of bigger companies use. So what are the systems and frameworks that you're using, right, in your business, and how can that work better? Because everyone can be replaceable, right? Like businesses are I think at a taking risks, right? If they're just dependent on one or two people, right? So by having frameworks or systems, you could get an actor to come in and be your best salesperson, let's say, for example, if you have the right system and framework, right?
Yeah.
Rather than rely on that person, who if they do leave, same thing about having like one referral source. Like, what if that person leaves or skips town, or how does that leave your business, right? If you're not in direct control of it. So I think all those things are interesting to think about, right? So what, I guess the question back would be, what systems or frameworks are you not using that you could start using to generate better value?
Yeah, nice. So you mentioned value there. So that probably reminds us the goal of exiting a business or selling it is pretty much just to get your money's worth, right? You put in all this, you built up everything, assets. So you want to sell it at the best possible price. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, sure. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, like, most, whatever something's worth is whatever someone's willing to pay for it. So yeah, there's certain industry norms and standards, related to all that. But I think, how can you add extra value is definitely around, just what systems, what frameworks you have, how easy it is to maybe transfer over that system and framework and idea to somebody new. Because even if somebody's coming in with previous experience running the similar business, the ease of transfer over and the amount of intangibles that you're offering, such as, again, like what is your unique selling proposition, what is your way of hiring, firing, attracting new clients, keeping those clients. Like we talk about the client journey, right? So how are you acquiring new people and converting them in an efficient way? And that's all leads back to systems and frameworks, right? So I think that's how I would look at, if I was going to buy, another business, I would look at, things along those lines, right? And beyond just whatever's in the financial statements and things like that, because there's also very good opportunities that may not be reflected, in just the numbers. So it's thinking about, what is the intrinsic value there? Obviously we all know about goodwill, but what does that really translate into is things that can be looked at from a level of what is the value, right? Beyond just the financials, I think. So
Yeah, for sure.
does that make sense to you, Scott, or what are kind of your
Yeah,
thoughts on
exactly.
that?
Well, I'm just keeping in mind all the different types of businesses that are out there. You can have knowledge-based businesses where a lot of it's sort of intellectual property, and you got to think about how you package that up and transfer that and make it available for others to use, especially if it's something you cooked up yourself. And then you got more, say, like a retail type business where it's all about perhaps like the physical footprint of the business and like the assets they've got in there. So that's a little bit more probably straightforward, where there's they just want to know that everything works and is in good condition, and there's valuations on how much things are worth and so on. So yeah, I just think it's across the spectrum, and I guess the topic for today was really like, no matter what your business is, and just can you do it in 12 months? Do you think the 12 months is a realistic time frame to do that, or is it longer, or what does that look like? I haven't done it myself. I've actually started businesses and kept them all because they've all sort of interesting in some way. But that's another aspect I'd like to talk on, is balance, and you know, how do you enter and how do you exit? That's a really important phase to consider. So, what are your thoughts? 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think that brings up a couple of different things. For sure, 12 months I think could work. I'd more answer to say you should always be ready to sell. I think that comes back to, why we want to talk about this topic to begin with is that you should always be ready to sell, right? So, a lot of people go into, businesses, especially let's say professionals, for example, use, physiotherapists as an example, right? They say, well, I'm gonna have my business forever, right? Because I'm a physiotherapist and I love treating clients and that's just the business I'm in. But at the end of the day, number one, being an owner of a physiotherapy practice is a different job than being a physiotherapist or being, a provider of that service. And then a lot of those people may go into it not thinking they want to sell, right?
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, you start a business to close the business loop by selling the business. So what are all the things you need to start doing right away to increase the value of your business? So if somebody does come along and want to buy it, that you're not you know not ready to sell it, right? So you are ready to sell. So I think that also brings up the fact that you should always be ready, right? Ideally to sell. um,
I
and
see.
then if you're not, what is an acceptable time frame? So yeah, probably 6 to 12 months is more than plenty enough time. But yeah, I think it's just to get us thinking about, if you're not, what are those things you'd be doing in the next 12 months? So looking at, your operations, your systems, your frameworks, your acquiring customers. Who are your customers? Do you have a mission? Do you have, core values? What's the culture like? Because all those things need to be figured out, right? That generates, value for the business ultimately. So.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we've touched on the topic, and that'll be good as we go with these live streams. We'll touch on a topic, and you'll see lots of different seeds where we can go off on different areas. We'll probably keep this to maybe a 10-15 minute format, and then we'll loop back and do lots of separate recordings as well. So guys, in comments, feel free to jump in and just give a thought or two, because that'll always be used and brought back in the conversation as we go. So the thought I had, Misha, was just on, if you're exiting the business, it could be to an external party that you don't know, and you're selling it for maximum value. And what's always on my mind is, how do you hand over businesses and keep it within maybe your network? So it might be someone that you know. It could be a family member. So a lot of this, handing over, and it's sort of succession planning. So that's another one I'd like to just kind of touch on, probably in another topic. But just in your preference, would you have a choice? In your personal preference, would you sell your business to an outside party and just capitalize on the value, or would you look to keep the meaningfulness of the business and maybe hand it over to, I don't know, like a cousin, or maybe if your kids are old enough, something like that, train them into the business? What do you think about that?
Yeah, interesting question. I think, yeah, I guess it just depends on the situation, right? I mean, if you started the business to leave a legacy, to pass it on to a family member, then you could go that route. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, a lot of people that would just be trying to maximize the value and get the most return for whatever effort you put into it, and the type of business you've created, then yeah, you just go for a dollar amount. And but it's like sometimes you want to sell to the right person who's going to keep that legacy going, or that shares a similar philosophy to you. Isn't going to completely change everything, and maybe that can carry on whatever you define as the benefit of that brand, if you will. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, and think
so
about like,
that's a different comment. Yeah.
I mean, basically, in handing it over to whoever you're handing it over to, you're handing over basically an income stream, assuming it's a profitable business. So, that's an opportunity. So if that's a gift you want to, something you want to add to someone that maybe isn't that far along in their career, then it does make sense.
Right.
Keeping in the business, it's kind of creating jobs for people within your
Right.
network. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No,
good,
definitely.
good.
And I think also, yeah, it's something that maybe you have that figured out, or you've thought about that before. You sell it because, um, again, there's some people that create family-run businesses that then just pass it on to further generations. There's others that at the end of the day just make the business completely, um, you know not related to any legacy per se, or family connection. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a fun
they'll just
topic.
go on and try to get the highest dollar amount, right?
I
Or
mean,
find somebody who just wants to take it over and pay a premium, and then they walk off and do something else with their life or retire. So
exactly. I think one of the key aspects, and I know we'll talk on it in another session, is pretty much they got to like what they do. So if you're not, if the kids coming into the business aren't loving it, then it's probably not going to succeed anyway. So probably have
yeah,
a think about that as in terms of a good fit. One
yeah.
last question, Mish, before we wrap up was I'm thinking about like where is there help for this kind of stuff? Like if I'm a business owner and I'm feeling like, all right, there's a timeline there. Do you know of anybody that it's like is there like a network of advisors or professional advice to say, hey, look, we're going to help you package up your business for sale? Personally, I haven't looked into it, so I don't know, but I've heard of people that have sold businesses, informally and formally, lots of different ways. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question too. I mean, obviously, there's business brokers that work, to help sell businesses. Depending on what kind of business you're in, often you can find, you know, buyers through your network. So if you're part of, business groups, or, Facebook groups, for the sake of, let's say, like a health business, like maybe you're part of certain groups that, um, you can find somebody there. Or again, if you're part of certain professional associations that would be there. In terms of the what you need help packaging, I mean, obviously, yeah, you need to get accountant, you need a lawyer, but beyond that, you need just, I think, to think about how do you get all your ducks in a row and make sure that you're presenting the opportunity in a way that's going to maximize your value. So again, it goes back, I think, to the points we made before, Scott, in terms of having the right systems and frameworks, and helping somebody who's going to step in that doesn't need to do a lot of work in terms of making sure that the business is going to maintain its performance. So a lot of that goes beyond, again, making sure that it's not relying on one staff member who may leave when they buy it, or not relying on one referral source or one type of customer. So I think it's thinking about those things in a different way, right? That how can you kind of um, bulletproof your business, I guess, would be somewhat of a phrase we could use, in terms of making sure that you're getting maximum value for what you want. So
Excellent. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. I think bulletproof your business will be definitely on the topic list for what's coming up, and the future weekly live streams. We can publish those in advance so you guys can see some topics and jump onto those when they come around. Of course, you can always watch them after they go live as well. Just a final point is that Misha and I are making ourselves available for just individual conversations. So if you find something that may touch close to home for what you're working on, just message us in the comments. We can give you our details and go from there. Guys, all right. Thanks for
yeah,
tuning
and
in.
like we said, sorry to interrupt you. Just one last point. Like Scott mentioned, yeah, we'd be happy to kind of go back and forth on this topic, or other things that are kind of bothering you, and or challenging you, and see maybe we can add some insight or help you out. So like Scott mentioned, yeah, just send us a message through, and we'll get back to you with our details, and we can set something up. Otherwise, just keep following us. We'll be doing regular, weekly topics, and discussing things, so you can get to know us a little bit better, and hopefully add some value to you.
That's it, guys. So subscribe to the channels, and we'll see you in the next one. All right.
All right.
See ya.
Yes.